1967 Sexual Offences Act by Paula Stevens-Hoare.
I think everyone sort of knows fairly well about people like Oscar Wilde, who was imprisoned and sentenced to 2 years hard labour for his relationship with a young man. He never really properly worked again after that, and I think that's a very sad thing to know. But sort of after the turn of the last century, things started to sort of gradually improve, I guess, very, very gradually. And some of the people that were involved in the sort of early reforms and changes of the law and attitudes were men. And I was aware that, having sort of identified that, I was very keen to get some women on my banner, being an ardent feminist, and thinking that actually if women had been involved in Parliament and lawmaking, that they would have absolutely been supporting the change to the law. So I kind of sort of glossed over H.G. Wells and Wolfenden, who wrote the report in 1957, and then Leo Absey, who was the Welsh MP who pushed the Act through Parliament 10 years after the report came out. And then kind of started looking around for people that were a little bit more contemporary. And I was born in 1967 when the Act was passed, so I think I felt even more of an affinity with it. I'm as old as the bill, and for me, although I wasn't directly affected as a small child, I was very well aware as a young adult about things such as Clause 28 being passed into law, and I think I've kind of lived through the legacy of that, really. I'm glad it's been repealed. I'm very proud to say that I marched against it in Manchester when I was a student, and part of my banner actually reflects some of the protests that took place in the mid to late 80s against Clause 28. As part of that protest, there were 3 unknown, unidentified women who abseiled onto the floor of the House of the Lords after only a 2-hour debate on whether or not Clause 28 should be passed. And I think they were so disappointed, and they felt that that was the only way that they could make their views felt. But in the kerfuffle that followed, 2 of them just simply got up and walked away and were never actually caught or arrested. There are no records of that on film or anything. It's very difficult to actually find anything out about them, which is why they're silhouetted. The more sort of conventional portraits that are below that are of Ewan Sutherland, who was 16 and the face of the Stonewall campaign to try and get the age of consent reduced to 16 to equalise it with heterosexual people. And the older female figure is April Ashley, who had a gender reassignment surgery in the 1960s, so very pioneering surgery, I guess, and has forever campaigned for the rights of transsexuals and transgender people, and was awarded an MBE in 2012 for services to gender recognition. And the officer of the Navy is just a photograph I took of somebody at Pride one year recently, and thanks to Stonewall again, it's been legal for gay, lesbian, transgender personnel to serve in the armed forces. And the figure right at the bottom is Ruth Hunt, who's the newly appointed CEO of Stonewall. I think for me it's about understanding that if we all enjoyed equal rights and we all respected each other's rights, then we'd have a much more productive and happy world generally. When you think about all the energy that is wasted in fighting for things that actually should be ours anyway to enjoy. So I think for everyone to take that responsibility and go away with that idea, it's up to all of us.